Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everyone. For this new video, will be in English with my friend and successful investor, real estate investor, Robert Luxenberg. Hello, Robert.
Hey there. Hi, everybody.
Robert is a successful investor. He built a portfolio up to 900 units, sold a couple of them since that time, and really active on the market right now in Montreal. Also a friend, someone that I met many times, but more particularly at the Fiji Island and with the Tony Robbins seminars, and we went a little bit deeper in the relationship at that time, what was very nice. So, Robert, can you introduce yourself a little bit and talk to me a little bit about your journey in real estate?
Well, as Patrice said, my name is Robert Luxenberg, like the country. And basically, I was on an NCAA scholarship in the United States for swimming many years ago. I'm 60 years old now. And when I came back to Montreal, I had some decisions to make. And I made a decision at that point to get into real estate. And I actually became an agent for, at the time...
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, it's a true story. You didn't know that, eh?
No.
It was A.E. Lepage at the time, downtown, their commercial department. And I was just this young whippersnapper, and I wanted to learn from, the big boys. And, at the time, they all seemed old to me. When you're young, that's what happens. And, I was learning from them.
Your turn good or your turn bad?
Hmm?
You turn as from a real estate agent as a real estate investor.
Well, this is the story, actually. This is the journey. And I think that the people that may be watching this will appreciate this because... I managed some properties also for my father at the time. My father owned a couple of properties, and I actually helped him in growing the portfolio because he was very conservative and fearful because he had made some mistakes in the past. And I came in and I helped him acquire more and more property, and I was managing them. And but here's the thing that happened. It was really strange. My father did not mentor me in real estate. I love him dearly. He's the best man in the world. And here he was, he knew it was right. He knew intuitively that buying real estate was the way to build wealth.
Transferring his fear to you, maybe?
He had some bad experiences when the PQ party came in way back when. He owned some of the nicest properties in Montreal. On Bernard, on Park Avenue, in Westmount. He owned all of Academy Road, all of Park Place. And then when the PQ came in, he panicked and sold everything. So there were some, some emotional issues involved with that, and I fully understood it.
So that's how real estate came to your life?
It came from my father, but the wrong way. And I say that because he wasn't teaching me how real estate will help build wealth in my life. In fact, it would ensure that I was going to be wealthy and successful and live an amazing life. He never taught me that. In fact, he used to cry poverty. The buildings are losing money, they're doing this. It's like he did not teach me what he needed to. Now, I believe in something called unconscious competence.
Yeah, absolutely.
He knew...
It's funny because last week, in Montreal, I was doing for the Club d'Investeurs Immobiliers du Québec training, and I was talking about all the 4 stages, about comment devenir jusqu'à inconsciemment compétent. So I'll let you continue this.
And that's it, exactly. So he was unconscious, when it comes to his competence. In other words, somewhere in there, his subconscious mind knew that real estate was the way to go. That's one of the best ways to build wealth. And he did, but he didn't teach me how it worked, why I should look at it. So here I am, I was an agent at the time, and I would get a commission check, and I'd be all excited.
Of course.
The check would come in, minus, of course, the taxes. And I'd go out and I'd party. Maybe I'd spend some of it, maybe all of it. And this would go on. So I thought that making 6 figures was successful. And I'll never forget the day that I walked into the room. My father was asking me, so how you doing? How's real estate? And I said to him, you know what, Dad? I made over $100,000 this year. And, that's a long time ago. And it was a lot of money at the time. And he looked at me and he said, well, I don't care. He says, what did you make net? And I thought about it at the time, and I realized that after taxes and after paying for my expenses, there was really very little left to, build wealth, to build a life. And it got me thinking, but at the end of the day, again, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody to tell me what to do. you know, to guide me and explain why real estate is good.
So your first buy in real estate was personal buy or it was an apartment?
So if you're asking me my first buy, because there's two phases of my life, and I want to focus more on the second phase, but the first phase, I was buying real estate, finding the property, negotiating the property, getting the mortgages, doing all of that, and even managing properties for my father.
Okay.
And sadly, I got nothing out of it. And I realized he was conservative, that it was going to be a problem growing with him. And I was a young guy, I wanted to grow. And I made a horrible error at that time of judgment.
Okay.
I got into the corporate world. Okay. I left real estate where I was making good commissions. You know, it was okay. You know, there were various companies that I worked with, and, you know, some people would have been happy with what I was doing, but I was uncomfortable with it. I got into the corporate world, and for many years, I was a vice president, a senior vice president of these various companies, some tech companies, some not. And I was doing really, really well at my portfolios.
Okay.
You know, they say over-delivering. I was over-delivering in the areas that I was in. But here's what happened. Nothing to show for it. You know, making a good living. I'm supposed to get stock options. You know, the company's supposed to go public. It's supposed to get acquired. There's always a story. And somehow, some way, I got into my 40s and I got really frustrated because something was wrong. I couldn't figure it out. Something was wrong. I was not building any net worth. I didn't have wealth. I didn't have a lot of money. I lived a decent life, but I was spending most of it. And it was at that point in time that I got so uncomfortable, Patrice, really uncomfortable, that I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, enough. And here's what happened, true story. I was offered an executive position running U.S. operations for a company here in Montreal. Okay. And I knew the CEO well, and it was a good people.
Which industry? Was it real estate? It
was in the corporate recognition industry. And I was involved with this company already. It was a family company, but growing. The bottom line is that I woke up, they took me out to a golf tournament, they took me out for dinner, and I was supposed to start the next day, and I came home, and I had a ache in my chest, and it wasn't a heart attack. Okay, it wasn't a heart attack, but I knew something was wrong. And Michelle, at the time, my ex-wife, had mentioned that, you know, you got to think this through. This could be your body talking to you, your mind talking to you. Your subconscious is saying something's wrong. And I thought about it, and it was exactly that. And true story, with 3 babies at home, very little money to my name, I woke up the next morning, got on the phone, called the CEO, and said, I'm not coming to work. I said, I'm not going to do this. I apologize profusely, but something's wrong here, and I don't want to make the same mistake again. You know, the old story, we know that, making the same, you know, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
But do you have a plan B at that time, or you just...
No plan B.
Okay.
I just said no. I had 3 kids to feed, a family to take care of, and basically said, no, I got to figure this out. And I actually, it's interesting, because at that point I started reading books. Right. Crazily. I read 100 books, and I started going to some seminars. And I came to the realization that this is exactly where the investment needs to go right now, and my time needed to go into growing, because something was wrong and I had to fix it.
So you need to change your...
I had to change
your minds, the way you think, your blueprint.
Exactly, and it's funny because you and I talked about this. You know, there's a lot of great books out there, Think and Grow Rich, and there's books by Tony Robbins, and there's, you know, there's brilliant books that were written by Harvard graduates and multimillionaires and Buffett. The book that hit me the hardest was actually extremely simple to understand and to read, and it was called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Okay. And I read that book, and I actually went to an evening seminar with him, and it hit me, an epiphany, like a brick across the head, okay? Good. It was a blueprint issue. Yeah. We all have blueprints for business, finances, for relationships, for health, and my blueprint for money was set low. It was problematic. In other words, my thermostat was set at $100,000, and that's it. Okay. And the problem with your thermostat being set at that number is that every time you reach that number, you know, you're going to stop. It's something's going to go wrong. Yeah. You're going to make the wrong, take the wrong action,
make the wrong decision. You start going back in your old habits, and so you never going
exactly.
Up. Okay, just go back to real estate. Your first apartment building you bought.
Okay, so the first apartment building that I bought was on Barrette And again, it wasn't
in,
mine.
in,
it was from my
Côte-des-Neiges.
father in Côte-des-Neiges. And I proceeded to buy another 4 on Barrette. I bought on Linton. I bought on Edouard Montpetit. And, you know, built up a portfolio, again, for my father.
Okay.
I didn't benefit from it. You know, I'm not going to get into that story, but the bottom line is that those were my first purchases, and I actually did the work.
Okay.
But my second phase, which I would like to focus on actually for this discussion, happened, I just told you, that crossroads that I hit. I met a gentleman that I had sold buildings to. His name's Norm Gordon, and I had sold buildings to his first buildings.
Really, really, really nice person. Yeah.
And I was the agent that brought him into real estate. You know, the same way you're doing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, helping them build wealth and change their lives. Well, you know, I helped him. He became a millionaire by buying real estate, and I was the agent that brought his first 2 or 3 buildings. And I actually went to him just to tell him, hey, this is what's going on in my life. You know me. What do you think? What's going on here? And I tell him my whole story with the corporations and this, that, and the other, and, you know, what's going on? And he says to me, this is easy. I go, what? He goes, you got to work for yourself. That's number one. You're not working. Stop working for other people, you know, because then you depend on them for your success. And with
Norm, the way he's talking is always to the point, directly. To the point. Exactly.
And he was head on. You work for yourself. That's number one. And number two, he says, get into real estate. He says, you're so good at this. You know, you're one of the best agents in the city. He goes, what are you doing? How come you're not buying real estate? You know, being an agent is not how to do this. You know, yes, be an agent, but you got to buy real estate. That's where wealth is going to come from. And I looked at him at the moment he said that. I said, you know what? I get it. You want to partner with me?
Oh, that's good.
Right there. And Norm thought about it, and he was kind of in semi-retirement, and he was playing bridge, one of the top bridge players in the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
His wealth was actually going down, and he remembered who I was, and he said, you know what? Let's do this. And this was at the age of 47.
Okay.
I'm 60 now, as I said. So this is just over 13 years ago. And Norm and I both went on a rampage of seminars.
Yeah.
We went to T. Harv Eker. Once we went there, you know, it was a wake-up call that we both had blueprint issues that we had to work on. In other words, mind first. We realized that, you know, you can learn all the numbers, all the formulas. You can learn the market. You can find money.
That's so important what you're telling right now, because people are stuck in the numbers. You know, it's more than numbers. First, you need to change yourself. It is the basic, and 100%. After that, you're going to be able to grow your business.
You know, I'm writing a book right now, and actually I'm almost finished writing this book, and that's precisely what you just said now is actually the key to my book. It's called A Legacy to My Children, and I am writing this for my teenage children. Mind, money, and wealth, what they don't teach in school. Wow. That's my book.
We're going to finish with the book at the end of the interview. Okay, so Norm, you met Norm in your life, so now you're offering to go in partnership. Correct. So now you start to go like many seminars, T. Harv Eker. In fact, we went to Tony Robbins at Orlando, the first one together. After that, we went to the Fiji Island.
Right.
And also, I remember I went with Norm, your partner. I went to Business Mastery with Tony Robbins in Vegas in 2012.
Right.
For me, that changed completely my business at that time. So yes, seminars are good, and it helps you.
I think that seminars are more than good. In fact, I would suggest to you that the most successful people out there, and the people with the most money, and the people who do the most out there, are people that are going to seminars and reading books constantly. Yeah. This is not just to become successful. This is life. It's a lifelong journey of growth. And I realized it at that point in time, and I went on a rampage. I mean, I went on so many different seminars, not just for the mind. That was key. I realized that if I wasn't going to fix it up here and prepare the foundation up here and the landscape for growth, I wasn't going to make it. Didn't matter how smart I was. It didn't matter, you know, what the formulas were, the numbers. At the end of the day, I had to fix this first. And I did, Patrice. I really worked hard on that, and I changed my blueprint. And actually, so did Norm at the same time. And as we went through this process of taking these seminars for both mind and business, our business took off. Yeah. And you asked me a question, and like I said, phase 2 of my life, we bought our first property in about 2006 after we became partners. It took actually quite a while before we bought our first one, only because we had other opportunities, but we had set our parameters on what we wanted. Yeah. Our first one was a 47-unit building in Lachine.
Lachine, okay.
That was the first
47
one.
On 32nd Avenue, huh?
That's the one. And we bought that property, and you know, we high-fived each other when we went through the inspection and finally went through the deal. And it was really interesting what happened. And I'm sure it's happened to some of the people that are going to be watching this, and you know, those that haven't done real estate or haven't made purchases. This is something you need to hear. This is cool, because we were still, even though we were changing our blueprint, we were still, our awareness was small. You know, our ability was still first building. And after about a year, we went back to the bank, and we asked them, listen, you know, we need some money. We want to, you know, renovate the building. And we were thinking, you know, we'd like to pull out an extra $40,000. True story. 40,000, okay, to do some work on the building. And he says, let me look into it, send me the numbers, and I'll get back to you. And we sent the numbers, and the next day we get a call. What do you guys, why 40,000? How about 600? We can redo the whole mortgage and give you 600,000 cash right now. Wow. And Norm and I kind of looked at each other, and we didn't get it at first. We were blown away. And of course we said, yeah,
yes, of course.
You know? And within a short period of time, we went to the notary and got a check, each of us, for $300,000. And it was the big wake-up call. It was, oh my God. And that was tax deferred, tax-free basically, but tax deferred. And it was the wake-up call that, you know, this is part of why we got into real estate.
Wow. And so the first buy just it was a nice building to create equity right away.
Yeah, and we didn't put a lot of cash down. You know, as you know, there's 1,000,001 ways to finance buildings, partner with people, get investors. You don't even have to put your own money in it. This was our first, and it was a big success for us, and it catapulted our business forward.
So when you look at the building, when you buy, what is the most important factor? Some people look only on numbers, potential, we have location. For you and Norm, what is important for you when you buy a building?
It's actually a great question, because I meet so many real estate investors and people who have actually built up portfolios, and all they look at is cap rate. In fact, some of the big boys out there, that's all they look at. And I don't get it, to be honest with you, because there's value in every building. You have to figure out what that value is. And you know, we have a variety of parameters that we look at. You know, one of them is return on the investment. That's overall return, including appreciation and everything. Another one is price per unit. I've always felt that price per unit will dictate the potential, the juice in the building.
Absolutely,
you know?
That's something that is underestimated, because people are laughing at the price per unit because it's the simple way and you know, to calculate. But in the same time, when you look at 4.5 and 4.5 and 3 and 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, you know, in the same density of the apartment, the cost per unit will give you the potential of it. Because if you buy an area that the building are around $100,000 per unit for 4.5, and you bought it at 80,000, it only can go up. You cannot go wrong. But if you bought it at 120 in an area, it's already the average that's 100,000. Now you can, you know,
exactly right.
You need to manage the building well to maintain that building at 120. So,
you know, and it's unfortunate because so many people out there underestimate the, you know, the value of knowing what your price per unit is. And I'll take it a step further, because here we talk price per unit, right? Yeah. But you know that in the States they're much deeper than we are. Okay, absolutely. They take it to price per foot. And in fact, I have a friend that's a real estate investor. He's in the student residence business, a dear friend of mine, who that's all they look at, frankly. They don't even look at price per unit. They look at price per foot. And that's really something that's going to come our way. It's more sophisticated. So you buy a building that's $100,000 a unit, and the units are gigantic. Well, your price per foot is cheap. You know, but you can also buy a building that's $100 a unit, where they're either small units or tiny rooms or whatever. Well, now your price per foot is more expensive. Yep. That here in Montreal you don't really hear much of. So that's something we look at. We do look at price per unit, but I'll take it a step further, and that is, be careful with cap rate. Absolutely. Okay, this bit with, well, I'm going to buy at a 5 or a 6 cap rate, to me is misleading. Because you can buy something at a 5 or 6 cap rate, but if you're completely juiced, if the revenues are at optimum, absolutely, okay, you ain't going nowhere. That 5 is going to stay 5 for years to come.
That's a trap, because if you cannot, you know, sometimes you're going to be allured by the 6% cap rate on the market is 5 right now. So you go 6%. It's interesting. I can finance a property at 85%. I'm very happy, but all the juice has been taken off the building, so you cannot improve it. In fact, you're going to have to work really hard just to maintain that net revenue that you have right now. So
So there, yeah, and you know, all investors should really take a step back and think that through, because that's profound. We bought a building about a year ago, Norm and I. It was a building, a concrete building. It was in what I call a blue collar area of town. And when it was brought to us, it was like a 4.5 cap. And this is, you know, this is not high-end location downtown or a good location anywhere for that matter. This is blue collar in an okay location. And I could tell you right now, most of the people that were presented this property, they nixed it right away, because it was, instead of being 5.5 for this area, or even a 6 cap, okay, when they saw it was 4.5 cap, they didn't want to offer on it. But when we took a closer look at it, we were talking about $87,000 a unit for good size units. It averaged 2-bedroom, good size units, and the average rent was about $625, heated and electricity included.
$625?
$625 a month. And that, to me, was the key right there. It's, forget about cap rate, price per unit told us there was juice. When we looked at the average rent, we knew there was juice, and we ended up buying the property. But listen to this. Our first move was to redo the furnaces completely. Okay. So there's 2 buildings, 3 furnaces in each. We went in, I know that there were grants available. We put brand new, state-of-the-art, high-efficiency furnaces. That was the first thing we did. We proceeded, we thought we were going to save about $30,000 based on a 5 cap. Let's say that's what you're basing it on. You multiply it by 20 to get value, right? Yep. So we figured, okay, well, it's $1.5 million, right? What is it? 30,000, sorry, times 20 is 600,000. We ended up saving $70,000 our first year. 70,000. That's $1.4 million in value on that one move. That's the magic of real estate.
Absolutely.
We make one move with furnaces and we make $1.4 million. Where do you see that in other industries?
Nowhere.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. And, you know, but because you get out of the cap rate and you get out of the spreadsheet and you say, okay, I'm going to see the building, what I can do with the net revenue. So for you, 625, 2 bedrooms with electricity was included, the heating was included. Yep. So just for it was no-brainer, you need to change this first. So that's the first thing. And after that, you of course you're going to work on to raise the rent in the next couple of years. Was it about a year now you have it?
Yeah, and look, there are people moving out, and of course what we did find out also is the juice we thought was in there was actually much bigger, because we're getting, you know, instead of getting $795 for a 4.5, okay, we're actually getting $895, and the 5.5s were at $1,200. I mean, we found juice that we didn't even know was there. So we saved money on the heating. We saved money on the insurance right away, and we're constantly raising it. We're making new entrances. You know, we're really making it nice, and we're raising the rents rapidly right now. And you know, to me, if you were to ask me what to focus on,
just a question, Robert. Yeah. When you bought it, some people ask always that question precisely. So you were seeing that you have a lot of potential in the building, that you're going to do some work on it. How did you finance it? Did you went right away with CHMC, or you went to conventional mortgage, and after that you optimize the property, and after that you go back to CHMC?
It's a very good question, because our first few buildings that we bought, Norm and I were ultra conservative, and we came from an interest rate environment where the interest rates were 8, 10, 12, 15%. I even remember 18%. So when we saw low interest rates, we kind of deeply ingrained, we knew that this was terrific, and we locked it in. In hindsight, you know, we went CMHC, locked it in for 10 years, and then, you know, 10 years would come and go, and it was still worth it, but the rates didn't go up, which shocked us. We thought they were going to go up. They never went up. And actually, if we would have just gone year to year or every 2 years, we would have made millions more, to be honest with you. But I know that today they are going up.
Absolutely.
And we got to be careful there. But in answer to your question, in this building, we took 3 years conventional. And the reason for that is we figured it would take us 3 years or less to get it to a point where we're either going to sell it for big profit or refinance it for big profit. But we needed time to do that. And we got the owner to carry a balance of sale for us, a significant balance of sale, also for maximum 3 years. So that 3 year
period that would let plenty of time to go back and paid.
Exactly. So, you know, like I said, each deal's different. This is what we did for this deal.
Okay, now in all the real estate deals you did as an owner, what it is, we have a deal that if you have to do it again, you will do it differently, or anything that you can say to people, if you start over, you're going to do something differently so people can learn from it?
That's a really tough question, to be honest with you, because, you know, you go in with the best of intentions and you usually make a lot of good moves, and then there's a few bad moves that you might make. I would say that my number one regret in terms of mistake was actually not the building itself.
Okay.
It was financing. I really think it's underestimated the amount of importance doing financing properly really is. And in fact, that you need to have a plan. What is your short-term, mid-term, long-term plan with that building, and then, you know, match it with proper financing. So the biggest mistakes I think that Norm and I made were in regards to the financing. We gave CMHC, I don't know, we did the math one day, and fees and whatever else, you know, maybe a couple of $1 million that we could have kept for ourselves, you know, simply by going conventional, working harder on balances of sale, etc. But there is a place for CMHC.
Absolutely.
Today, if I had my rent at optimum,
yes,
I would go to CMHC, get as much as I can, lock it in for 10 years.
10 years, because right now,
safe.
Now we're at end of August, and the difference between 10 years and 5 years is about 40 points. So, you know, it's worthwhile to think about it, to go. If you plan to keep, it's a keeper, you need to, maybe it's a good thing to go.
If it's a keeper, if you're looking long run, which is always, you know, to me, that's the biggest recommendation I can pass on is, you buy and never sell, then that's what you do. You know, you refinance. Okay,
so to go back is for you is to refinance more. That's one of your big, and you know, be a bit more sophisticated in your financing structure.
There's a second one.
Yeah,
being more aggressive in raising rents.
Okay.
And that's just a difference of opinion. I think that you got to go in there aggressively and raise the rents to whatever the market is as best you can. I'm not saying do anything illegal or immoral or unethical or something that'll hurt people, but I think that we could have been more aggressive. And I'm thinking of one property in particular, that we could have gone in there and raised it an extra 100 because we had full control in that case, and it was a student residence.
Okay, student residence.
Yeah.
So you went to the student residence. It was your first buy in a student residence, because not everybody is ready to go in that. That's a different business.
You know what? At the end of the day, I actually found it easier to manage my student residence.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Than regular apartment buildings. But also this particular deal, it was on an emphyteutic lease, and there were certain parameters and rules that actually were in our favor, that gave us power to raise the rent the way we wanted.
Okay.
So that was my favorite property, by the way, Patrice. You know, and it's very simple. And I think it's a good recommendation to any investor. Go in there and think like your tenant. What is it that they're looking for? What is it that they want? You know, treat them well. This is their home. They chose to live in your building. It's their home. So we took that attitude to the students, walked in there and said, okay, what do the students want? Create a
community inside.
Exactly.
I know that I did an interview with Eric Desroches. You know, you have that thinking, and so far he's very successful in what he's doing, and he's very, you know, centered for what he gives back to the people.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, it's a business, but at the same time, if you can curate something good for the tenants, great.
Business, you know, if you focus on something important, you know, something I always like to call it the big why. The money comes after that, but you got to focus on what is your reason. Do good. With the students, it was thinking like them. What did they need? They needed some privacy. They needed a place to play pool, a place to hang out, create the community. So we did a lot of things that we knew they wanted, but we also thought about the secondary market. Their parents. These were, you know, young kids. And so we put in, you know, 90 security cameras. We made it very secure with key fobs and everything. So we offered security. It was very close to the school. And the bottom line is that we catered to their needs. And in turn, we were able to, you know, create incredible value and demand. And we bought this property, you know, for just over $5 million. And within 8-9 years, we were able to sell it for over $15 million.
Wow.
And we could have done better in the sense that if we were more aggressive You know, we weren't going to ever sell it. So we weren't being aggressive. If we were more aggressive, we probably could have raised the rents another $100.
Well, that's good. That's a good
we did
story.
well.
Yeah.
No regrets.
Do you have a building that you the one that you're most proud of, a transaction? It was that building, or you have?
I would say that was the one, if you're talking about the portfolio that I had owned for a long time, that's the one that I'm most proud of, because you know, we were able to bring a lot of our experience into making changes in that building. It was owned by a hotel operator, actually, who couldn't figure out what to do with it. And we went in and made tons of changes. Left, right, and center, we made changes. So we earned our money. Wow. And so, you know, I'm very proud of that. The one that I'm working on right now, I think that I'm proud of as well. I think that's one that, you know, Norm and I are aggressive on, and we're changing, we're making it comfortable for the tenants. We almost never have rental board cases, and we're going to do very, very well on that building in the mid-run. That I guarantee. Great.
Okay, we're very close to the 30 minutes. Usually it's about 30 minutes in the interview. Well, last thing, if someone's listening right now in the audience and he's starting in real estate, what is the, you know, how can you suggest him to get started? What is the best advice you can give to him?
Okay, very important. Understand that your mind is going to drive your acceleration towards wealth and the amount of wealth you build. So get your mind in order.
More than real estate knowledge.
More than real estate knowledge. Knowledge you can learn in you know, a few lessons and talk to a few people. But the mind is something that takes work and understanding. Get it together. Take seminars, read books, talk to people that are, you know, that are successful out there, and take your blueprint and your thermostat and change them towards wealth. That for sure is something I highly recommend. The other thing is, too many people do ready aim, ready aim, ready aim, and do nothing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Execution is the key to success in life.
Yeah, execution is everything. I have a T-shirt like this.
Is it?
Yeah. And my T-shirt right now is macro patience, micro speed. So
there we go.
That's real estate.
And I really believe at the end of the day, I love T. Harv Eker. He's one of my mentors, along with Tony Robbins and some others. But T. Harv Eker said it best. Manage your fear, execute, get going, execute, because you can always correct and continue. But as long as you're moving, okay, you're pushing your life towards your goal, you're pushing your finances and your wealth building towards a goal. But if you sit back and wait for the perfect deal, I can tell you right now, you're missing the boat, because it's time oriented.
Absolutely. Yeah. You need to react fast, but real estate's a long time. It's a long period. You know,
exactly.
Business, but in the same time, you need to move fast. So if you're too much in the analyzing, you know, you're not going to buy. And interesting. So to finish, of course, your project right now, you have a big project. You're writing a book. Okay, can you, 1 minute, can you just
absolutely
explain what it is?
It's my third book, actually, and the book is called A Legacy to My Children, Mind, Money, and Wealth, What They Don't Teach in School. And I came to the realization one day in interviewing a few kids from CEGEP, when I asked them if they knew what compound interest was, or compounding, and not one of these very smart kids understood what that was. And I realized there was a missing piece. I went in, I studied, I interviewed headmasters. At the end of the day, they do not teach three things in CEGEP and university, even in high school. A, how to use the most powerful instrument in the universe, the mind. They don't teach them. They teach them how to memorize, that's about it. Number two, they don't teach them about money and how to understand money and how it works. And number three, wealth building. It's a completely foreign topic on building wealth. And I decided to put that in writing in simple terms that teenagers, early 20s will understand. It virtually guarantees that these people could be multi-millionaires over time. And I would suggest to you, even the parents that I've interviewed, okay, are saying, oh my God, I want to read that. So I'm excited. It's in edit mode right now.
So for people listening right now, what I will do is when I have the the official link to buy the books or download the books, whatever, we'll put it on the links on the interview. Robert, I really appreciate your time. Also, for people who want to know a little bit more about Robert, the Real Estate Club, the Club d'Investisseurs Immobiliers du Québec, will start to do English meeting. I think it's starting in October. And I think in November you're going to come and tell your story a little bit more, deeper, and it's going to be a different flavor, the same story, but and it's going to be in in a room with hundreds of people. So I will also put the date, official date, and the information.
Beautiful.
And again, everybody, if you like this video, please tag someone you can learn from that, what Robert just said with us, and also you can share the video. It's very appreciated. You can encourage our business, of course, we finance building, we're selling building, or if you're looking to buy, we can help you. And Robert, I really appreciate your time, and it was very interesting. I think people will ask more from it. So
the only thing that was missing is that we didn't sing together.
We do that after the camera is closed, okay?
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.